So were you probed?
No.
How do you know?
Suppose I don't remember.
So you
So
probably
you could
were
have been
probed.
probed.
Possibly.
Hashtag me too.
I was not abducted.
All right, here we go. It's another episode of Extraordinary Files Podcast. My name is Matt, here with Ashley, Hannah, Tim, and the man behind the curtain, Ted. We got another episode today. It's all about what, Ashley?
Alien abductions.
Here's a little secret tidbit. Ashley is scared to talk about this because she believes that she's going to be abducted if she talks about it.
Well, yeah, a little bit. I usually avoid the topic. It scares me.
It's the topic to talk about scares you because you're afraid if you
I
talk
feel
about
like
it.
they're gonna know, and they're gonna. I don't know.
So Ashley believes.
I don't know. I don't
She
want
believes
It just scares me.
she's scared to get anally probed.
Well.
So
No
in case you're new to Extraordinary Files Podcast, we're going to talk everything today about Alien, but any other time it could be anything paranormal related or who knows where we'll end up. But Hannah, just in case people want to know where to get us, where do they find us at if they want to contact us?
You can email us at extraordinaryfiles@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at Extraordinary Files or Twitter, XFilesPod. For Facebook, we're Extraordinary Files Podcast.
And there was Hannah's
Contribution.
contribution.
Matt just had a seizure in the middle of the episode.
He did.
That was a little
He
pause.
struck out there for a second.
Yeah, just for a minute, everything I think I was abducted. I lost time right there. Everything all of a sudden just kind of like paused, and I felt like,
You got probed?
Does your asshole hurt?
no, it tingles.
It tingles.
It vibrates in my
Ooh.
special place. I don't know.
Maybe they use some warming lube to make it tingle. Or would that be cooling lube?
You tell me.
I think it would be cooling lube. To give you that tingly sensation.
Okay.
Ashley has some. She just
So,
pulled it out of her purse.
All of a sudden, we're sitting here now. Out of Ashley's
What's
Purse
in Ashley's
comes
purse today?
like a 5-gallon tub of animal lubricant.
What?
Animal lubricant.
Animal
Birthing
lubricant.
agent. Oh no. She told me no, it's Astroglide.
It's Astroglide.
ass.
Today's episode brought to you by Astroglide.
And it's gel.
Yeah, I use it in my
It
hair.
says for the extremely dry.
I use it in my hair.
She came home from the store with a big tube of Astroglide, and I was like, "Oh, sweet, maybe she is in the mood." And then here I go into the living room, and she's here like putting it into her hair like it's not jizz.
It helps with frizz when you've got curly hair.
So does sperm. Why don't you just ask Tim for help?
No, that gets crusty.
You and Hannah get together and figure that out, huh?
I feel like that happens at least once an episode. We're just like gagging. You make us gag.
I don't do it. Hey, you're the one that pulled Astroglide out of your purse.
That is true.
She's all prepared for the
If you
anal
need
probing
some, you're
episode.
sure to well. You're sure. No, I stroked out.
Yeah. You just got abducted.
They heard aliens.
Well, at
and
least she had
lube,
lube
and
when
they
she stroked
abducted
it out.
me.
Oh,
Oh.
at least you had lube when you stroked it out.
Okay.
Anywho, aliens
This is gonna sit here on the table, so you can keep
as a
looking
constant
at it.
reminder of
Tim
what it's
thinking
not
about
being used for.
Hair.
gliding into your asshole.
At
Why
least
does it always
if you
have
get
to be the
abducted, at least it's
asshole?
right there and convenient for the aliens. They don't even have to
Astroglide.
dip into their own
Well,
supply.
see, that just assures that I'm not going to be in pain when they return me.
That's kind of interesting.
That's
Astro. Like
not true.
astrophysics.
Yes.
Or ass.
Astrology.
Like-
Asshole.
I'm just saying, if I was an alien and I was going to abduct somebody, I would abduct somebody who claimed to have supernatural ability to read minds and speak to the.
Maybe
people
they
on the other
know.
plane.
Maybe they gave it to me.
Probably.
That's true.
Oh, I'm sure they gave it to you.
Oh, they gave it to you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the ass, Astroglide.
Like when you were a kid, you said you like saw visions of your grandfather in your room and stuff. Maybe they just appeared to you in the form of somebody you felt comfortable with. So in reality, they used the visage of your grandfather to take you up to their space station and implant their psychic granting abilities up in your brown eye.
I feel extremely filthy all of a sudden. Like I need to go take a shower and wash this filth off.
Filth. All right. Matt,
So-
do we have any news? There it is again. Another probe.
Got a news story. This is from the news desk on Ashley's side. She's the one that found this one, came up with it. So shoot, Ashley.
All right. So this has been popular.
Popular. Good.
And well, I am. Let me speak.
All right.
Were you spoken to first?
Oh,
Anyway,
she's had another story.
so a woman in Bristol, England, apparently has had sex with over 20 ghosts.
Whore.
Slut.
Her name is Amethyst Realm.
She
Her parents named her
probably-
that?
I am pretty sure she probably changed her name.
Yeah.
Okay, so
She's-
she's claiming she's had
she's-
sex with over 20 spirits.
Yeah, she's 27
Mhm.
and she's, quote, a spiritual guidance counselor. Which makes,
Okay. How does she?
Um,
Okay, go ahead. Tell me about this.
So she says she prefers ghosts to real men.
Who hurt her?
And then
She probably has a glass dildo with googly eyes.
So
I was just gonna
now-
say, yeah.
That's what it
So now she's claiming she's fallen in love with one of these spirits because she's also reportedly a medium, which I could kill people like this.
Okay.
for
Have you
doing
ever
this
had a
to my
spirit
profession.
hit on you during a
No.
reading?
But she apparently fell in love with this ghost spirit.
yeah.
And they are now engaged, and she hopes to have his children. Which
How
she
does that
s-
work?
She says it's not impossible, but they're basically working on it.
I mean, have you read the book of Luke in the Bible? It's definitely not impossible.
This is true.
I mean, that's true.
Um,
Because that's how, like, Jesus was born. If you believe in that.
from Hannah's news desk. Just in case you don't know, that's how Jesus was born. Courtesy of Hannah and her research this evening.
You're welcome.
So she's in love with just one of them. She's had sex with over 20.
Correct.
I mean, I guess if word got around the spiritual realm that you were DTF, I mean, I feel like ghosts would be lining up
Mm-hmm.
at your
Uh-uh.
proverbial door.
It's probably been a while since I've had some warm pussy.
Is Amethyst there? I got a little something for her. Can you imagine that?
Hmm.
Then he comes back and says, can she contract some sort of an STD?
I don't know.
I mean, is there,
Spiritually transmitted disease.
yeah, is there could there be dirty ghost dick out there?
I mean, I guess like if they went and humped a demon first and then
Hannah, is that possible?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she says, yeah, matter of factly.
From
How
Hannah's
many
news
news?
desk, it is possible that you get demon dick, according to Hannah.
Oh.
All right, so tell us about
All right.
our alien abduction here. Let's
So,
get into that.
Our
Since we're
alien
already-
abduction story here we have today is Barney and Betty Hill.
Benny Hill.
What?
there's no way she knows who Benny Hill
Do I
is.
not get it? I don't get it.
Benny Hill?
Who's Benny Hill?
For those to get Benny Hill, there you were. That was my little inside joke. So Barney and Betty Ash, Barney and Betty Hill.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about it. What
They're
happened?
they're one of the most famous alien abductions in history, and they were one of the very first. Stop clicking, Matthew. Okay, so their story ended up actually being made into a movie called The UFO Incident, which stars James Earl Jones, I'm gonna put a link up there on our Facebook for this. You can watch it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty boring. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
What are you having a fit about?
No, Hannah over here deuced. I think she queefed, and now she's got the giggling like a little schoolgirl over here. I felt the
laughing.
floor vibrate, and then all of a sudden she started giggling ever since. She let a big queef go. Oh, jeez.
I just really hope Ashley reads from her script. That's all I gotta say.
Her research, at least.
I'm not reading fudge nuggets. You
I didn't put that in
Come
there.
on.
Damn
I
it,
just read
Hannah.
it, and that's why I started.
Damn, Hannah, get it together. Fudge nuggets. That's about how she
Ready,
contributes
ready,
to the
ready.
research. let me
September
tell you.
19th, 1961, fudge nuggets.
Now, if I was to add something in there, it'd say like cocksucker or something
Right.
like
Alright.
that.
It's
I
like
mean,
those news
So-
stories where like the teleprompter gets changed and they just keep reading blindly. They just read the most absurd stuff.
It was also made into a best-selling book titled The Interrupted Journey.
But what happened?
Ooh. Okay, so Barney and Betty were leaving their vacation. They were there for like 3 days up in Niagara Falls.
Mhm.
Okay, so first of all, Betty's a social worker, and Barney is like a World War II veteran or something, and he worked for the Postal Service.
Like, what year is this?
1961.
Okay.
fudge nuggets.
Anyway, so they were coming back from their vacation in Niagara Falls. It was a short trip. They just took it because she got vacation, whatever. And they had their dog. What's his name? Delcy. Delcy. I was right. Look at me go. Their dog Delcy was with them.
Good. Delcy, you were right. You got the right dinger.
The right day.
This is a
Matt-
dumpster fire of an episode.
Yeah.
Matt gets the left ear. God damn it, Matt. Your feet are taking up the floor. All right.
Well, you know what they say about big feet.
So anyway, they left.
Big socks.
They
Yep.
stopped before they began their journey home. They had some coffee at a cafe. They were leaving at 10 o'clock, and that they were going to drive straight through. It was going to put them home around 2 or 3 in the morning.
Where were they heading to?
Portsmouth, New Hampshire,
Gotcha.
where their home was. Stop quizzing me, Matthew.
No, I'm just kind of curious. I'm asking. I don't know where they. I didn't know if they were going to,
Right now. So, I mean, it was like
the pub or something.
that would make it for an interesting story.
Right?
All right. Now, as they were driving,
Hanging out over at Hannah's house.
they claimed they started to see a bright light in the sky.
The moon.
As they were driving. It was like shortly after it was like 10:30 when they first saw the light. Betty first thought it was a shooting star, and then it started moving in weird, sporadic ways, and she got a little bit concerned. Barney assured her. Ooh.
Good.
Barney assured her that it was probably just aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines.
That kind of just sounded like Hannah's
But-
queef.
It started doing stranger movement. Strange patterns. It started doing strange things. It got closer. It got brighter. And eventually, Barney decided to stop the car. He got out. He had his binoculars, I guess. They were just, right there. 'cause,
Standard issue. Good.
They were at Niagara Falls.
Right.
I don't know. And so he got out, used his binoculars, and he claims that he looked at the spacecraft. He described a disc figure, and the front of it was like all windows. He saw figures on the inside, light behind them, and he claims that they were wearing like shiny black suits and shiny hats.
Some pretty detailed shit.
It is detailed shit. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, if there's light behind him, how is he able to see what they're wearing? They would just look like
Shadows.
figures
Mhm.
at best, if he can even see that far.
And they had to be some pretty
Spectacular binoculars,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay. So that's my
See.
first red flag.
right?
A lot of people believe this story. So
So he's seen the people in the spaceship, is what we're
he
saying.
saw the people, and then
Described them.
Then as he was watching, he said they all started moving except one guy who went over towards the
Control
board,
panel.
the control panel. Thank you.
Mhm.
And he started to do something, and something came down from the bottom of the ship. He instantly felt scared, and he thought they were going to abduct him. That's so spooky. And then he had the immediate need to flee. So he ran back to the car, and him and Betty started speeding away. Okay. So they are in the car. They report hearing some strange noises and clicking on the front hood of the car. It started vibrating, and they said that they felt the vibrations in them, and they had like a weird tingly feeling go through their body.
Hannah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So when that stopped, they kept driving. So they got home.
So he took off.
He took off. They realized when they got home that a trip that should have taken 4 to 5 hours took 7.
Okay.
And they couldn't really explain why that was. They didn't come across any accidents or roadblocks or anything.
Well, I know
like that.
why.
Why, Matt?
Because Betty probably had to go to the bathroom 300 times on the road trip. That's probably why.
Probably.
Isn't that right, Tim?
Probably.
Mhm.
So when they got home, Betty called her sister, was kind of going on about what they saw in the sky and what happened to the car. And she was kind of freaking out a little bit because she was worried that they had experienced high levels of radiation. So she was asking what to do, what should she do, blah, 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 blah. And her sister's husband said, well, take a compass, go out and put it on the hood of the car to test for radiation. Yes.
The Geiger counter. The compass on the car is now a Geiger counter.
They
It was the 60s.
yeah.
All sorts of things
So,
are possible.
said they took a compass out to the front of the car and they put it where they heard the noises, and the needle started spinning and it wouldn't stop.
See how that works? But that also could be, I guess, if the metal car could disrupt a magnetic field. Just being
Probably.
a skeptic to try to debunk
No,
that
there's
one.
another. There's more weird things that
All
they
right.
discovered once they got home.
Preach it.
The watches they were wearing never ran again. They'd stopped.
Not a Timex then.
Nope. Changing the batteries didn't help. Whatever. The leather binocular strap on the binoculars that Barney was wearing was torn, and he doesn't remember that happening. Barney's best dress shoes that he was wearing, which I guess he was meticulous about keeping perfect, were so scratched up that he started using them for yard work. Betty's dress had several tears on the seam, and she noticed a pink powder, which she reportedly hung it on the clothesline, and the wind blew it away. Sounds super sketchy, right?
Right.
Just a little.
But after reporting it, we'll get into the story about how they reported, but after reporting it, they've done different types of analysis on the dress. Is your message important, Matt?
No, it's Hannah texted me. Hannah sent me messages.
False.
Go ahead.
Just because you gave me the stink eye for my phone dinging, and now yours is.
No, I didn't give you the
So they
stink
did
eye
a
for
whole
that.
bunch of testing on the dress, DNA testing. I mean, there were like apparently there were like 5 different studies done, and they found some unexplainable things.
Is this like a blue dress?
So yeah,
It was found in the closet with some unexplained DNA on it.
no. Okay, there's more.
What's this
So the
guy's
fabric-
name? Possibly Bill Clinton.
The fabric was coated with a biologically derived material, which is composed of mostly protein.
Mhm.
Again, blue dress in a closet. Go
Both
ahead.
water soluble, lower molecular weight, and insoluble, higher molecular weight.
So
Whatever that
he's-
means for our scientific listeners. And a small amount of natural ester type oil. So
Sounds like jizz to me.
they concluded that what was on the dress could not have been caused by urine or perspiration or other natural bodily fluids.
Then what is it?
They didn't really have an explanation. And there's more detail. I've got the links for the studies that were done and some of the scientific crap that's in there. But
That sounds like
But-
zippity doo dah peanut butter hoo ha to me.
but there's stuff about how it only was on the outer lining of the dress, not on the inner lining. It was a scientific study. Granted, it was back in the
The
60s
60s.
that they did this, so who knows what they would have come across today. The dress is actually stored, I think, where she went to college. It's on display.
Women were allowed to go to college back then?
She was a social worker.
My question still stands.
I don't know. I guess. Anyway, so
So how did she think it
They-
got there?
They ended up, well, they got home and they realized that they were missing time. They found all these strange things, the clothes, the watches, and she was freaking out a little bit. So it was like the next day after they got home, she went to the library and started checking out books about UFOs and aliens and abductions. Okay, so she started reading books.
What section of the library would she go to? Like the science fiction section, or like the erotica section for the probing part, or
Well, this is the
like
60s.
where
so this,
where in the Dewey Decimal System does that fall?
I mean, this is like in the heyday of UFO
Right.
research.
And a lot of that was like science fiction derived. Like every comic.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
But like, Project Blue Book and all that kind of stuff is
Mhm.
really probably in the midst of their.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of this just seems like really on the nose
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
the stereotypical stuff.
Definitely. We'll talk about that at the end. So we're going to continue the story.
Mhm.
Let's
We good with
let's
that?
do that. Let's continue for our listeners.
Let's
we'll
just
keep on
continue
going.
the story. I figure we can hold off on the discussion for
Okay.
post story.
In other words, Tim, shut the fuck up so she can finish.
Ashley has the talking beanbag now. And when
Yes,
she
that's
gives
right.
its talking beanbag
It's
to
a
somebody
stick.
else, it'll be our turn.
Talking.
Oh, it's a talking
The
stick.
talking stick.
It's the talking
So-
probe.
Now you know. It's a beanbag for the guys.
And when
it's
I
a
get the
probe
stick back,
for the
it's
girl.
going to be a little sticky, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to want to hold it.
Oh god.
You might get the
All right.
shit into the stick.
Oh.
Okay. So Betty began having dreams starting 10 days after the abduction. Note that this is after she started reading the books.
Okay, 10 days.
10
Good.
days. She started having very vivid dreams, which she believes are memories of what happened. Ooh, my ears just started ringing. Sorry.
It's the aliens.
Ooh, oh my god,
coming.
stop!
They're
It's-
coming.
They hear you. It's like a calling card. They know
Okay.
that you are talking about them. So
All right. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm good. Oh my god. I'm going to get abducted. Okay. So, some of the things she explains from her dreams is that she remembers pretty much everything that happened. She said they were wearing blue uniforms, which doesn't match the shiny black uniforms that Barney claims he saw from the binoculars.
how'd she see them if she wasn't using the binoculars?
She's,
was her dream.
She's dreaming.
Oh, in her
This
dreams.
is her dream, which
Okay.
she claims were her memories of what happened.
I'm starting to follow the story now.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad.
Good.
Is it hard to follow?
No, I'm just
Okay.
I'm putting myself in the realm of it.
Okay. Amethyst realm.
Amethyst realm. Amethyst realm.
Okay, she claims they
Oh,
were wearing the
boy.
blue uniforms, and had blue hats similar to cadet hats. She said they were humanoid, but almost like a fetus. Like their heads were larger than their bodies. Pretty much the typical alien.
Big
Image.
eyes too.
Big eyes,
Mm.
small nose, sliver for a mouth, all that. She said they were grayish in color. They were nice. She pretty much said that they were very kind. They explained they were going to take them aboard the ship. They were going to do an examination.
Here comes
Mhm.
the probe.
She said the leader was friendly, and when she asked where they were from, he showed her a map of the stars and gave her a book.
What was the book?
Well,
Oh, this is the dream though again.
this is in the dream. Yep.
I was
Yep.
hoping for evidence.
So, well.
Was it a library book?
We'll get back to the book. But
Okay.
upon waking up, she drew this map of the stars that she was shown by the leader of the ship. Now, she reportedly has no knowledge in astrology or anything like that. So she claims she couldn't have possibly drawn what was later discovered to be the Zeta Reticuli system. So she drew this pictures of the stars after seeing the map that he gave her when she asked where they were from. So they're supposed to be from the Zeta Reticuli system. Sorry. I'll put a link too for there's a website where you can look at all that stuff. So anyway, they started doing an examination. It was just simple stuff. They were checking out fingernails, hair. They did like a scrape test on her skin. They collected some of her skin, she said. They checked their teeth. She said at one point, they were in different rooms. Her and Barney were in different rooms. At one point, they came in like childishly excited saying, like, oh, their teeth come out, because Barney had dentures. And she like laughed at them and was like, no, they're fake teeth. And apparently it was like a huge deal to them that whatever. You would think aliens would know about dentures, right?
Right.
Anyway, she said most of it was painless, except when they put a large needle into her belly button, at which the leader of the ship came over, waved her hand in front of her, and the pain disappeared. So they're also magical. And then after the testing, she had the book. She was shown the map. They were getting ready to leave, and as they were leaving, she claims that there started to be arguments among the other extraterrestrials on the ship. And the guy who gave her the book came back and said, they're not okay with me giving you the book. They don't want you to remember that we had you. Took the book, and they put them back in their car and sent them on their way.
I mean, I guess this would be like more fascinating if it was more than just a dream.
Right.
But are this like a recant, some sort of like a
Does
past
she
life?
remember what the book was?
Past life
more.
regression.
I don't think she could read it.
So in other words, she pulled a Hannah.
Well,
Ha 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 ha.
so there's more.
Okay.
Now,
This is a dream.
this
Still?
is a dream.
Okay,
So
still a dream.
no. That was a dream. In
Right,
real
okay.
life,
So now, out of the dream.
we're in 1964 now. What, this is 4 years after?
Yes. Ding ding.
1964, they were convinced to let Dr. Benjamin Simon, who is a renowned hypnotherapist, begin hypnotizing them to figure out what happened to them.
Okay.
They were hypnotized, that's hard to say, hypnotized separately so they wouldn't overhear each other's recollections and they wouldn't impact each other's stories. Keep in mind, this is 4 years after the original account.
And
They
They read
never
alien
spoken
books.
to each other in the 4
Right.
years before that
Right.
date.
Right. I hate to make this episode seem like we're veering on the skeptic side, but
I mean, this feels
me-
like the worst example of an alien abduction ever.
this is one of the most popular. There's movies, there's books. It inspired an episode in the American Horror Story thing that I don't watch.
This episode's brought to you by the thing that she don't watch.
Anyway, so he did it so they wouldn't share their information and impact future sessions with him. Now when he finished the hypnosis session, he also reportedly re-induced the amnesia after the session so that they wouldn't recall and remember the traumatic events when they weren't mentally capable of handling it. Okay. And so they wouldn't talk to each other. So the sessions were filled with details and many traumatic memories, but their accounts were emotional. Sometimes they cried, sometimes they panicked. They had like panic attacks.
But okay.
Their hypnosis sessions were all recorded. I've got links to them, so I'll post those too, so you can hear their stories. A lot of it matches what Betty reports having happened in her dreams, but not all of it. Some of Barney's information was different than Betty's. Dr. Simon speculated that Barney's recollection of the UFO encounter was possibly a fantasy inspired by Betty's dreams, knowing that she had shared the information with him. She wrote it all down in a journal. Like hell, it was all there. And he thought it was the most reasonable and consistent explanation for their experience. Now, the Hills didn't agree with that, but everyone involved agrees that the hypnosis sessions were effective as their mental state improved and they weren't, quote unquote, tortured by the memory and the experiences of what happened to them. You're making a face. What do you think?
That's speechless.
Crickets.
So brass tacks. The therapist did a good job and made them feel better about their situation. And yeah, good job, good therapist. They earned their money.
I mean, I guess for the story in its whole, their story themselves, I'm not tremendously impressed. I mean, that's just me being, I guess, a skeptic. Now, disclaimer that saying that I do believe that we are probably not the only intelligent people somewhere in this universe.
It would be like the definition of hubris to believe that in this very vast universe, the
Growing,
small portion of which that we can observe, that we are the only planet that has intelligent life on it. It would be like the most very human thing to do, to pretend that we were the only ones out there. But it's just highly unlikely.
It's just ignorant, I think.
Me personally, I kind of subscribe to the theory that technically, with brass tacks, we are all terrestrial to a sense anyhow, because I believe in the theory that basically Earth was seeded from either asteroids or something else that were on them when it hit, that it started to, like a bad germ. Once the seed got into
like when you
Earth's
look at
atmosphere,
the amount of time the Earth has been around, that we feel like it's been around, there's been like a rapid boom in development of life in general. Like, evolution took a crawl, and then there's a huge explosion in development recently, and it really isn't aligned with like the way that evolution is supposed to work, where really we should still be on a very primitive level. So whether it was another intelligent species came around here, made us their experiment and kind of move things along, or we just started out as, like per Matt's theory, being seated here and kind of set up for success. Maybe they wanted to check on the Hills because they were an interracial couple and they wanted to see how they were doing in the 1960s.
I mean, there's lots of theories out there, as far as us gaining knowledge, from them. Tons of things. I mean, there's even, what's the writings on the
hieroglyphics?
Yeah, of like, it looks like a guy in a spaceship.
The cave drawings and things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of their beliefs of a god would go back and look to possibly an extraterrestrial being.
Right.
I am 1,000% more prone to believe that, like, the theory of God and a higher power is, the recollections of primitive man being visited by these people, and it's per their understanding of the world and the way things work, the best way they could explain these beings as being this God who controls their life. And maybe they did at the time. Maybe these influences and this whole societies grew up because they prayed to the gods, and then the gods brought them food or gave them protection, or they suddenly their life was a little bit easier because they had these new knowledges that were bestowed upon them by these extraterrestrial beings. So, I mean, I'm a skeptic through and through, but I'm more prone to believe that than I am anything. And
also there, of course we have the Roswell incident. We all know that, that's going to be an episode going down. But then we have the British version of the Roswell at the base that even I believe he might have been the commander or like the security chief at that point in time. They've since then, have come out and he's told his story, and then, I've seen like where shortly after that, the British government, the Ministry of Defense, they came in and wiped out, took all their documents and right. So those types of things happen.
You haven't seen that movie?
Oh no.
She has not seen Men in Black.
You have not
I think
seen.
I have once. I just don't remember.
Have you seen Men in Black 2?
No.
Why would
There's
I see
no
the second one?
Do you know who's in it?
I don't remember.
But I mean, but that's a good point. Like,
yeah.
like the same thing is happening now as there was in the 60s, right?
Government cover up.
Well, it is plausible deniability, right?
But okay, let's say this. Should the government, first off, say, you know what? Should they censor it and say, look, if we let them know that there's aliens, would there not be mass confusion? Wouldn't there be like people like Hollanders? I mean, would it be bad if the government came out and told everybody, yes, we are not alone and they are here? I mean, do you
Plus,
think
it's not a good political move. I mean, every politician for the last, ever goes to church every Sunday and professes to believe in, the American version of Christianity. If that political leader comes out and says, oh, by the way, that's all wrong, we have had proof for a long time to that effect, they are not getting reelected.
And not only that, but the wide chaos to know that there's
The chaos.
there's a species out there that if they want to, they can just press a button and blow up Earth.
Oh yeah,
There'd be panic,
everything would
there'd
be rioted and
Yeah.
pillaged and everything because there'd be no point.
Yeah.
It would be like the worst part of every sci-fi movie where all the pillaging happens.
Yeah.
But like, if I were a government leader,
like when I
and
don't win the
knew that existed, I would pay some Hollywood people to get it pretty close to the truth and put it out there in a way that's meant not to be believed. That
So-
way, anybody who provided evidence to the contrary was just saying, "Oh, well, he just saw that movie that was out in the theaters last week. Of
Right.
course, he's just a fanatical fan of this kind of science fiction. Of course, he's crazy."
So should the government then cover it up?
I mean, I think at our point in our evolutionary, yes.
I mean, people riot if they don't win the Powerball.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I think humans at this point are not quite ready for the whole truth. Not everybody isn't.
Right.
I think if it would have been out from the beginning, that would be one thing, but it obviously got covered up at some point.
Because I think the
People are
powers that be
scared of
sit
it.
back and say, and I don't know if they're necessarily scared of it. I mean, if we have made contact with people out there and talk to them and we know that we're all, on a cordial basis, hey, they're far above us as far as intellectual abilities, technology, all that kind of stuff. So they're just going to leave us be to figure it all out. They might help us with the little things here and there,
Mm-hmm.
Tang, Velcro.
Mhm.
Let's throw them a bone every now and then.
You can gift
it
a
were
couple,
like- it would
couple
have
of
to be-
seers and a couple healers and
Right. But it would have to be irrefutable proof. Like, it wouldn't just have to be like, oh, yeah, we have this evidence and we have these things. It would have to be 100% verifiable. It couldn't be like, oh, yeah, like we totally killed Osama and then threw him in the ocean. Because there's going to be the door left open for people to believe that it's not true.
So
Like,
then,
it would have to be 100% verifiable. Even the most devout of everybody would not be able to logically deny that it was true.
well, that's a problem.
Like, we are
Not
inherently
everyone's okay with.
an illogical people. Like, we make emotional decisions and we make judgment calls based off of our perceptions. And when you really challenge people's belief systems like that, if you did it all in one foul swoop,
Right.
it wouldn't go over well.
Right.
I mean, if we touch base on Roswell for just a moment, some of the things there. First off, Roswell happens. They say it's a saucer. We've got contact with a saucer that has crashed. That's what our government said. That's what the military said then. I believe next day later, no, it was a weather balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff from the weather balloon was shipped to Wright Pat.
Or did we just get told that
Well, first off,
they obviously know that we weren't ready?
but first
Right.
off, did someone really mess up and say, okay, we don't know what a weather balloon looks like or understand what
Right.
that is.
Right.
But if it was just a weather balloon, then why ship that weather balloon to Wright Pat?
Secretly.
Right.
Where Project Blue Book was,
Right.
A center in, right here in Wright Pat, Ohio, just outside of Dayton. That was a center for Project Blue Book and all the investigation stuff. So this weather balloon got shipped to Wright Pat because it's a weather balloon. Explain that one. What?
Ooh, that's gonna be a good episode. I'm so excited.
Well, that
I
being
know.
said, like, there's government records for the most menial, pointless everything in a warehouse everywhere. Like, I think it just had to be shipped somewhere, and they moved it out of Roswell because it was drawing too much attention. Now, reality is there's a lot of other top secret stuff going on at that base, and they probably didn't want citizens crawling around that base. Let's move it to Fairborn, Ohio, where nothing really interesting is happening.
So going then with the abductions.
That's just
since we're
devil's advocate. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. With the abductions, is it far-fetched to say that there's some other beings out there that their mission is to explore the wide open stretches of the universe and do research, categorize what's out there? I mean, do we not, as humans, research what we find in the deep blue ocean?
I believe it.
Do we not research what we happen to maybe find out in
Yeah.
outer space?
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely possible, but again, we're putting our human, like, what would a human do into like the mind of what an extraterrestrial would do. Like, who's to say that they're like at all interested? Like, what if this is nothing new to them, and out of like the vast cosmos that they've explored, they've seen other civilizations. They've looked at us and at our point in our development, and they're like, okay, yeah, like I think
Baby
we'll be
brains.
back in 50 million years and check in again, you know. But like, there's a lot to be said. Like, who's to say there's not that one kooky alien who's really into primitive species, and he's the one who's just orbiting the Earth,
Like
causing all
paranormal
this,
investigators.
right? Like-
Doing. Right.
Or we got one crazy one out there that's just into fetishes and
Right.
wants to come over
Right.
and probe everybody.
Right.
Let's keep going over there. We're just
He went to conversion camp, it didn't work,
It's
and
fun
now
to
he's
fuck with their memories, guys. Let's do it.
Let's fuck with them.
right. So I mean, it is one of those things where there's so many different openings and possibilities, and I think the only thing I can like land on as a certainty is that absolutely there's other life out there, but what form is it in? Like, is it microbial? Is it spiritual in nature? Are we just like the first step? Like, what if all the extraterrestrial activity is just like spirits in true spirit form?
Have you seen Ashley the Fire in the Sky, the movie?
No.
Tim, can you get her a Netflix account for Christmas?
Is that on Netflix?
I do, but Ashley's under the perception that it's only allowed to play Gilmore Girls, Friends, and Supernatural. Those are the only 3 shows that are on Netflix, and
That's
she
not
can't
true.
be convinced
I
otherwise.
watched so many shows. It's ridiculous.
Well, there's one thing you haven't watched: a shit ton full of movies that you need to catch up on.
Movies are hard for me.
She's
Shows are
scared of
easier 'cause
trying
they're
new
shorter.
things. She doesn't
Is that
want,
what it
I am
is?
bad at trying new things. Yeah.
but when actually forced to do it, she enjoys it.
Episodes are shorter, but
So,
there's like
Tim saying
20
so. Oral
episodes.
You know what,
sex.
Matt? Have you watched Doctor Who?
Which what season? What year? I mean, it's been around for 50 seasons.
All of it.
I'm sure I've seen a lot. I don't know if I've sit down and binged watched the entire 50
Mhm,
years worth
mhm.
of Doctor Who. The British, the American, Zimbabwe.
There's no American Doctor Who.
Like, what if there's a Doctor Who
sure?
and they just clicked? And they're like,
He hasn't watched Doctor Who.
You sure about that?
What are Doctor Who fans called?
Is this trivia now? All of a
It
sudden?
is. It is.
Isn't it like
Fail.
no, it's something like
oh, hold on.
who yeah, they're like who's something they're who they're no, I know this because
You've probably
Whovies?
seen it online.
Whovies?
Whovian.
Whovian, see?
Uh-huh.
That was pretty close. He gets like a C minus
Yeah.
on that one.
But he still hasn't seen it.
He still has his
Anyway,
academic eligibility.
So don't judge me on what I have and haven't seen when we're talking about aliens and you haven't seen
Anywho.
Doctor Who.
Do you want to get abducted? That's how you get abducted.
Yeah. See?
I probably already was.
Is that what happened?
That's probably. I don't know.
I really want to know your story. I really wish you would tell it.
Well, let me start having some dreams and seeing a hypnotherapist, and maybe I'll start remembering after I read some alien books and watch some movies.
Yeah.
So,
So
Like, I think the stories that like resonate most with me are the ones where, there's nothing to gain from it. Like this couple published a book and made some money off of it. So
they didn't publish a book; their family did.
Okay.
I assume
years later.
they've passed on. Are they still alive?
They've passed. She outlived him, but
I don't know.
they did interviews for years. They were in the public eye. They were an interracial couple, so some people say that that's a reason that they did it, to get recognized and normalize it.
There's just a lot of stuff involved in this episode or their story that
Mhm.
and again I'm definitely the type of person
See?
that I like to remain open-minded.
Right, me
But
too.
you've got to prove it to me. I'll listen to your story, but then if there starts to be some holes and some
Yes.
hoo-ha in
And-
it,
and
I'm going to call it.
also, I mean, over the years, I know memory changes over the years. Okay. There's some slack there. But, I mean, I had to dig deep and watch videos and videos and interviews to get the story, because little details everywhere would kind of change throughout the years. I mean, she was interviewed as an elderly woman, and some of it was different from the early stuff that I found. So that bothers me. And I'm a skeptic when it comes to stuff like this and the stories. If it's not on camera, even if it is on camera, I'm probably not going to believe it. But I don't know. And that being said, a ton of people believe this. There's a plaque where the abduction happened.
A
quote,
National
unquote.
Historic Site.
Yeah.
But
like
a ton of people believe a lot of things too. Just because, just because people believe in it, doesn't make it factual.
That's not what I'm saying.
Right?
I'm
No.
saying,
but you think it's credible enough to where a lot of people believe, but still,
maybe not everyone has done as much research to know the whole story. I don't know, but I don't see how it's really.
And a lot of time people hear abduction story and they either immediately accept it whole cloth or deny it whole cloth.
Right.
It doesn't matter who it is or what it's coming from. Everyone has that presupposition. Like they know how they feel about it going in. Like I know how I feel on certain topics when they come up, and I've already made my mind up whether it's BS before I've even listened to it or heard it out or anything like that. So the kind of abduction or extraterrestrial stories that kind of resonate as more credible with me, there's going to be enough consistency, because you'd think that if this kind of thing is happening, there would be enough similarities between stories. But when it doesn't necessarily mimic, the stereotype, like to such a degree.
Well, with that being said, we knew we were doing this episode, so we put some feelers out there, looked for some people to contact and talk to us about, and someone did reach out with us. And they put out their entire story for us, and it's an exceptional story. All right. He also claims that he was looking for his photos because I guess every time that he had left with them, he would come back and have physical signs on his body of what they did. And he was pulling up some of those photos. Someone's supposed to get back with me. And we're still waiting on that. So that might be a part 2 to this episode. We're going to see if we can get him to call in and talk to us about his actual, so you can get a firsthand account according to someone who's actually been there.
Since we're talking about what you can gain from this and stuff, he actually wants to remain anonymous. So that I find a little bit intriguing. It makes me want to believe these stories more.
And again, I'm totally, like I said, I am totally open to hear what people have had happen to them or believe that they've had happen to them. Again, I keep a wide open mind.
Yeah.
But I need to really look for that evidential piece. Mm-hmm. If he came back with photos and those types of things, that helps out tremendously. If maybe possibly unexplained.
So why is that? Why do you? So when it comes to like spiritual things in nature and ghosts and things like that, it seems like the bar is set pretty low for things that are. That was an EVP. That's a message from beyond. But when it comes to something where like just like statistically the odds of there being extraterrestrial life are much higher, why is that?
Me personally, I think I'm still the same way on an EVP. I agree with you 100%. Some people say, "Oh, this is an EVP," and I heard it, and it sounds like somebody queefed down the hallway. I'm like, no, that don't count. Hannah
is omnipresent.
That's right. If I hear an EVP, it's got to be a Class A, 100% that I could show it to 50 people, and 50 people would come back and say the exact same thing. Not an EVP where. And again, this is just me. Like, if
I'm not trying to be abrasive. I'm just saying.
No, right.
When we look at the observable universe and we see all that's out there, why do we feel like it is so absurd?
I don't know if it is absurd.
Okay.
Do you? Do you think it's absurd?
Mm-mm.
I think it's possible. I think it's there. But just like with ghosts, just like with Bigfoot, just like with anything, I need that little piece to say, explain this.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely happening. I just don't think it's happening in the way that we think or expect it to.
I mean, this could just be some kid's giant science experiment.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it.
Just like the spoiler alert, end of Men in Black, like our galaxy is just a marble that some alien's playing with.
Right. Or we live in a locker.
Right.
All hail, Ashley, the timekeeper.
What?
You don't get that.
All hail Zed. All hail Zed. He is the light bringer. He is the light bringer.
Ashley has no clue.
Nope.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that is intriguing to me in this case is the stuff they found on the dress.
Mm.
So they have that dress still. Have
Yeah.
we, with modern technology, attempted to like test that again?
I don't know. I
That's
couldn't
exactly
find
where I was going
anything.
with it. Well, we need to figure that out. Because there is some sort of
Sorry.
You're good.
I don't know how much
substance.
would remain after
How well was our DNA
that many
program
years.
in the 60s
There's-
really anyhow? Where
I
was
mean,
the
I've
DNA
got the
at?
studies.
Right. Like, was the guy just like dipping a Q-tip?
I don't know, fuckers. Look it up.
I'm making a joke. I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm saying, like, did he dip a Q-tip in it and put it on his tongue and say, that doesn't taste like a salty surprise?
Oh.
That doesn't taste like cum.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Hannah.
Hannah.
You're welcome. I always like to clarify your blatantly obvious.
You got to break it
jokes.
down.
I do. You don't
Hannah has
know.
to break it down to make sure everybody really understands.
In case your kid walked by and was listening and didn't get the first reference, they're definitely going to get the second reference.
Definitely got it now. You're welcome.
So now we know what Hannah knows what something tastes like. Anyhow, no, good question. I would say too, since we do have that dress, since a college has put it away, stored it, whatever they did, I think we should be able to pull those things back out now. And even if there was some pink powder on it and she left it out, unless it was dry cleaned and washed, or, I would still think with today's technology, we would be able to run that through something
Right.
and be able to pull out something.
Well, again, human technology, who's to say it's even going to register this extraterrestrial
This is true.
material? Yeah. I mean, I think with this kind of stuff, everything is going to be so different. I know there's different schools of thought that extraterrestrial life is either going to be very closely mimicking human makeup because the same building blocks of the universe made up our planet that makes up their planet. But shoot, I mean, even just one small. Okay, I'm going to move on.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I agree 100%. What if it says it's pollen? I mean, or something. Let's say it was pollen or some sort of an object that we have here on Earth. Why can't we have that same type of pollen or whatever out there beyond the planets? Right?
I think this is truly one of those extraordinary things that we're never really going to know about. We can only really have a thought and a feeling on, but until, our ability to travel
Until we can
and
experience
observe
it.
and experiment firsthand,
Right.
we're not really going to know.
And what if we go then, let's say we go to Mars. Do we find either fossilized life forms, some sort of something that used to live on Mars? Then would that open
Didn't
it
they
up?
find there was proof that there was subatomic life on Mars? I thought that recently came out.
Didn't they find water?
there's,
or something,
proteins
or there's
on Mars.
something.
But who's to say that that's indicative of life? Just
Right.
because the building blocks are there.
I know that they did find bacteria
Right.
on the outside
and it was
of
the same, very similar makeup as what was on Earth.
yes,
So
but it
there-
survived. It was able to survive the vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on the outside of the space station or something, possibly, or maybe I think it was the space station. But I don't know what you want to call it, germs or the single-celled organisms, whatever it was able to withstand the radiation and the harshness of space without a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big step to me. Then if it can survive out there, then why couldn't it be seeded somewhere else? Let's say this. What if when we send one of our probes out to Mars, we just had the Mars rover and all that kind of stuff land on there. What if one little piece of our bacteria is on there somewhere? It makes it to Mars, and then now it starts to expand.
Right. It could be a billion-year-long process, but I mean, we
Right.
we
What
have
if we
satellites and
seeded
things like
Mars?
that we shot off.
What if
you
we
know,
seeded
a long
Mars?
time ago?
Exactly. And so why couldn't the same thing happen here?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's definitely possible.
some extraterrestrials sent out their probe and seeded us.
So kind of back to the case, like, why does probing always seem to be a part of these stories?
Hannah,
It's the experimentation.
we're going to throw that one to
People
you.
like to experiment, experiment, like Ashley just said. I don't know, like
And then there's reports of people coming back with like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Objects inserted into them.
Like
Like tracker chips?
tracker chips
Mhm.
and stuff. There's that whole rabbit hole.
But it is kind of funny how they come back and, I mean, I was anally probed. That could be a
I
whole
wonder
nother
if that's a
episode.
perception that
Now-
they put in their brains. You're right. Like, you go up and get studied in a very normal way, but they send you back and they put the thought in your brain that, hey, I totally was
Now, I
all
will-
up in your business because nobody's gonna
I
fucking
will
believe you
say
when you come back.
Barney at one point did report that he felt the need to examine his